Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Council and Committee for the Town of Petawawa to order for May 11th, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. Welcome to members of staff, members of council, and we have an online guest with us this evening as well. Just before I read the land acknowledgement, I'd just like to say that 3.5 years ago, when this council first came together, we did some consulting with our Indigenous partners, and we formulated a land acknowledgement that we would read before each council. And then about 1.5 years later, we decided it needed a refresh, and we consulted again with our Indigenous partners and came up with our 94 calls to action. We felt throughout the reconciliation process, it would be a good idea to educate ourselves and the town of Petawawa as well. Well, we've come to the end of the 94 calls to action, and we once again consulted with our Indigenous partners and came up with a new land acknowledgement, which I'll read today. And we wanted to stay with the theme of education and history because we felt it was important with our reconciliation process. So I'm just going to start off by just an introduction that I'll only do today, and then the land acknowledgement will be read, and in future days, the land acknowledgement itself will just be read. So I was born in Manitowoc, up in Northern Ontario, which means Cave of the Great Spirit, on the traditional lands of the Ojibwe and Anishinaabe, and I came to share these lands here in Petawawa in 1969. So this is our new edition of our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the town of Petawawa was incorporated on the traditional unceded and unsurrendered Algonquin Anishinaabe territory in 1865, just 8 years before Reserve Number 39 was established at Golden Lake. We recognize Petawawa's long history, which predates the first arrival of colonists as early as 1613, and its significance to the Indigenous peoples who live and continue to live upon it, and whose spiritual practices are tied to this land. We commit to understanding the profound impact and harm of colonization, honoring Indigenous rights, and embracing reconciliation as a core responsibility. We further commit to honoring the reconciliation process by learning about the 7 grandfather teachings of love, respect, bravery, truth, honesty, humility, and wisdom, and applying these lessons to our stewardship of this land. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest on these matters? Okay, we're going to get right to our special presentation this evening. I'd like to welcome Thomas Pacey, who's an associate of Dillon Consulting Limited, and he's here this evening to give us a public transportation feasibility study, phase 1 of the final report. So Thomas, I can see you there on the screen. Welcome to Petawawa Town Council. And in a minute, you're going to go full screen, and then the floor is yours. We're looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Do you want me to share the PowerPoint, or are you guys sharing it on your end?
We'll share it on my end.
Okay, perfect. So I'll just wait for that to come up, and then we can dive into the presentation. Okay, so if we go up to the first slide, we can dive in.
The last page.
From start.
Okay, so this should be right here, right?
We ask that you please bear with us.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're ready for you.
Okay, are you able to get further to the previous slides, or?
Yeah, you just tell us when to change them and we will move along with you.
I mean, we can start here. That's okay.
Okay.
But basically, so we're going to run through phase one of the transit feasibility study, and we're just going to have a quick project recap and methodology, look at the market assessment and the peer review, the community and stakeholder engagement findings, the transit solutions that were explored, and then the key recommendations from those explored solutions. So on the next slide, we have that quick recap. Basically, Petawawa is a growing town. It's got some significant employers, families, worsening traffic congestion, but there are opportunities for transit to support Petawawa's growth. So through this study, we did a background review, so understanding transit in similar communities and also the context in Petawawa. We spoke to stakeholders and the community. We had a look based on the data we had and what we heard at what we think the market and the policy alignment in Petawawa is. We explored those potential options and then now come to you with a feasibility recommendation. And as you'll sort of see as we go through this, it was very community led. We had a lot of public engagement and we got a lot of response from the community too, but it's also informed by that background data from peer systems. So on the next slide, then we have those key findings from engagement. So we had a high participation rate. We had almost 450 responses. We had 448 responses to the survey. We also had public drop-in sessions and meetings with various stakeholder groups around Petawawa. And we had lots of turnout there. Several councillors showed up as well, so it's always good when that happens. But access to Pembroke was one of the key things we heard from the community. We also heard about families and youth who need options to get around, employers and some of the commuting constraints they are seeing, seniors in particular with their need to access appointments and also social functions. We also heard from municipal and other partners that are willing to look into and investigate collaborating around how transit can best serve them or how they could support transit. We also heard of some of the issues around getting around with active modes, so walking and biking can be a challenge and therefore transit could help with that. But also just making sure people have access to education, healthcare, social services. So in general, we heard from the community there was definitely strong demand for various groups for various reasons. But one of the key themes was people wanted to get to Pembroke as well. So on the next slide, we have a summary of the peer systems we looked at. We looked at similar systems in similar contexts, so around Ontario. We looked at Pembroke, which are obviously very close by, North Grenville, Bracebridge and Coburg as well. As part of looking at Pembroke, we spoke to them, to their staff, specifically looking at their existing Ottawa River Transit system and how that's performing. But in terms of peer systems, some of them operate on demand services, and we'll get into that in a second. Some operate fixed route services and some operate hybrid services. Certainly ridership varied between the systems, partly based on the amount of service they provide, but also based on the types of service they provided. So fixed route service was generally carried more people per hour of service invested, and on demand generally carried less people per hour, and that's a function of the capacity that each type of transit system is able to provide. Also looking at existing services in Petawawa, and this is sort of the background on which any other sort of service could be provided. There's obviously the existing Care for service, which is very much tailored to eligible riders who need to access specific services. It provides that essential transportation need, and those who use it say that it works for them and they enjoy it. But it doesn't meet those general transportation needs, and its hours are relatively limited. So it doesn't serve as a general transit system for most of Petawawa, and certainly doesn't help to address all those issues that we heard of during engagement. So on the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about these different types of transit. So fixed route is the traditional transit system. So that's generally a larger vehicle operating on a set timetable along a set route, always goes the same way at specified times, and is what generally people think about when they think of a bus service. It's fairly reliable because you know when it's going to be where, and that's the same every day, but it's not necessarily good at covering rural areas or areas with interesting or patchy road networks, and can also be less direct depending on what your origin and destination are. You may have to go a circuitous route to get where you need to go. On demand, on the other hand, is very flexible. So as the name suggests, it only operates on demand. People need to request to be picked up and then request to be dropped off, and it will come only on request. So you can say, I want to get from your house to the Civic Centre, and then the system will try and identify a nearby vehicle that can pick you up at the nearest stop. And then maybe when you're on board, you may stop at another stop to pick someone else up and then get dropped off at the Civic Centre, and then that person may go on to another destination. This flexibility allows it to go more places and provide potentially more direct trips between people's origins and destinations. But because it is more tailored and allows for lots of different journey combinations, it's less efficient, it has less capacity. So it can provide that good coverage, but it can't do as much work. So then thinking about the pros and cons of both of these, we sort of tried to explore options for hybrids as well, and different ways to make sure that we met those demands we heard from the community, so around healthcare, around access to Algonquin in Pembroke particularly, around employment opportunities and social services. And really, neither one system seemed to be able to solve all those problems, and so as you'll see, we developed a hybrid solution here. But on the next slide, here's an example of the fixed route options we developed. The first one on the left there is a much more direct routing, allowing the service to run every 30 minutes with one vehicle, basically running up and down through town with a small deviation to sort of serve more areas. But there's large parts of Petawawa east and west of the boulevard that are significant distance from where there would be bus stops. And so that would limit the catchment of the service. And certainly if you're heading north-south, perhaps up to the base, you would be able to get a fairly good journey, but you may need to get yourself quite a distance to the bus stop. So while it provides a direct journey, it doesn't cover much of the town. On the other side, on the right side, there's an option for a 60-minute service. This one's much more circuitous and basically comes south on the west side and then heads north again on the east side. So in doing so, you cover a lot more of the town. It's much easier to get on the bus, but the trips run less often because the bus has to spend more time getting to and from places. The overall journey that everyone has to make takes longer because you have to get dragged around different parts of town on your way north or south. And in particular, east-west journeys are really not well served under this model. Like if you want to go, say, from the west to the east, you'll need to head down to the south, down to Pine Ridge first, and then come back up and end up on the east side of town. So there were sort of, for both of these options, we considered too many trade-offs for them to be successful services. So with that in mind, we then had a look at on demand, which is the next slide. And there's not so much to see on the map. It basically shows that you can define a zone, and then within that zone you can define stops, and the bus will be available to pick up and drop off at those stops based on demand and on requests. It shows that you can cover all of the built up area. You could cover the entire municipal boundary if you wanted to, but you can change that zone as much as you want, and it is very flexible for, say, new growth areas or areas where roads aren't yet developed, but you know something's coming. You can really tailor the service and change it quite quickly and quite easily to meet that growing demand. So then finally, the next slide is sort of the recommended solution. And we really tried to take the best of both worlds here. Have an on-demand service to provide that local connectivity, particularly that east-west connectivity, and provide access into all the different parts of the town, but also then have a fixed route service to provide that more sort of commuter-focused, faster up and down service along the main corridor. As we heard from the community, access to Pembroke and the college was particularly important. So as part of this, we're proposing that fixed route service that provides that faster long haul trip from the garrison down through the centre via the Civic Centre through the centre of Petawawa would extend down to the college in Pembroke and then provide connectivity. People could change in Pembroke and hop on the Ottawa River Transit service there if they wanted to get to other places, one of the malls, the hospital, that kind of thing. But by having this integrated service, you get to do a bit of both. You have one bus running up and down, providing that faster, reliable, regular service, and then one providing that local connectivity, and importantly, connectivity to that fixed route service. So you could hop on your on-demand vehicle at one of the areas further away from the boulevard, maybe go to the Civic Centre, and then hop on the fixed route service there to get to the college, to get to the garrison, to get to where you needed to go, or your entire journey, if it's within Petawawa, could be on the on-demand vehicle without needing to touch the fixed route. Similarly, if you wanted to get from Pine Ridge to the garrison, you could do your entire journey on the fixed route service as well. So that's sort of why we ended up with this hybrid, to try and provide that access, but also serve the other needs that were identified as well, getting to the college, getting sort of fast, attractive trips, getting to the garrison, providing for employment, all those kinds of things. So with those service concepts in mind, the next slide sort of discusses a bit of how you could make that work, the kind of management and governance options that could work with this kind of hybrid model. We had a look at things such as the service being operated by the by Petawawa itself, operating it with a third party, partnering with Pembroke because they already operate their own service. And really at this stage, as phase one, the sort of simplest thing is looking like recommending exploring operating it with Pembroke. They already have vehicles, they already have the technology to provide the service, they already have a fare structure and a way to charge fares. So that provides this good opportunity if you wanted to go down the road of having transit. If you worked with Pembroke, you could leverage all of that and it would be simpler and faster and cheaper to implement than if you did it all yourself and came up with all of those things, got your own vehicles, got your own drivers. As well, we recommend, particularly in the short term, that you maintain the Care for service as it is, because it provides a much more door-to-door eligible traveller only service versus this sort of structure that we've proposed wouldn't replace that. It would be in addition and provide more general transportation. So our recommendation at this stage is to pursue that formal partnership with Pembroke and really leverage the efficiency and the savings of expanding their system operationally rather than you having to procure all those things and learn all those things that they've already learned and procured themselves. So then on the next slide is sort of a summary of what this all looks like. At this stage, this was just the phase one, the feasibility. We've basically wanted to explore what would be a feasible solution in Petawawa. And so all of these are scalable and flexible, but for these sorts of high level costings here, we assumed a $5 fare, which is the same as what is already being charged in Pembroke. We focused on trying to be measured with the amount of resource. So running that fixed route regional route only in peak periods, running the on-demand all day during weekdays as that sort of peak hour focus. So that first column, well, the middle column there, and then the all day service is what would match what Pembroke is already delivering. So there's all day service on the regional route, there's weekend service on Saturdays only. So that's sort of the more deluxe option. And again, these are all just high level estimates to understand what this could look like. If we wanted to go and explore it further, we would refine those figures and get a better understanding of whatever council's preferred kind of parameters would be. Also a note there that you could add some Sunday service for around $90,000 on top of these costs. So finally, on the next slide, we have the key recommendations. And that is basically to advance the hybrid option, our recommended option. So that's with the on-demand locally and the regional fixed route to phase 2. So that's the implementation investigation phase. So really understanding how to implement it, what is required and what that would all cost and what that would all look like, how long that would take, how that could be phased. As part of that, investigate partnering with Pembroke to deliver the service together in a joint way. Determine that detailed service plan so that you could move towards implementation if you wanted to, and maintain that care for service. It's also important to note, if you do work with Pembroke, that opens you up to a few other funding opportunities, and they would be things we would explore in phase 2 as well. Certainly the province has some funding that is specifically designed for regional integration between multiple municipalities for transit. And so if you were to work together, you would potentially be able to access that as part of this as well. So phase 2 would include all those things on the bottom part of the slide there, like finalizing actual routings rather than the concepts we have now, confirm the actual frequencies and parameters that you want to potentially operate, review what the fleet and infrastructure needs are, confirm the fare sort of structure, estimate staffing requirements, develop that detailed financial plan, including any cost sharing and any funding opportunities like provincial grants. Obviously, while we have recommended looking at that Pembroke partnership, if that's not the way council wants to go, or the way that Pembroke potentially doesn't want to go, we can also do this in a way that Petawawa operates whatever the service is on their own, and that could be the way that we choose to go through with phase 2. So that's the end of the presentation, but happy to answer any questions about the recommendations.
Okay, thank you very much, Thomas, and thank you for all the work that you and your company put into this presentation. And I also want to thank you for simplifying it for us, because it could have been a complicated undertaking and a complicated process, but you really simplified it for us and made it very clear. Just before I open it up for questions, when you were meeting with the city of Pembroke and discussing the ORTC and a potential collaboration, right now their system is all an on-demand system. So did the discussion ask Pembroke whether their on-demand system could be integrated into that fixed route system, you know, the regional network where one of their buses comes to Petawawa? I'm just wondering if that was discussed as an available option within their current system.
Yeah, we haven't discussed in great detail that concept. We'd sort of park that for if we go to phase 2, that is something we would want to discuss in detail with them. What we did discuss is how their system is currently structured and to some degree how it's contracted. And they confirmed that the way that they set it up was designed to make it easy to bring in other partners, such as Petawawa, should that happen. So there shouldn't be those kinds of roadblocks, or they should be minimal. Certainly we're familiar with the software they use to run their on-demand system, and we believe that it has the capability to handle having a fixed route as well as the on-demand. So we believe technically that's feasible, but we haven't gone in detail and said, hey, what do you think of this option? How would that work with you? And that kind of thing yet, because that would be the sort of detail that we would explore in phase 2.
Okay, thanks for that. I will now open it up for questions from members of council. Councillor Carmody.
Thank you for your service, and thank you for that presentation, very thorough. In the costing scenarios that you presented in the report, I was just curious now, are these costing scenarios referencing a municipally run system, or is this a third-party run system? And in particular, I'm curious about if we went ahead with one of these scenarios, is the town of Petawawa suddenly going to have bus drivers on staff, and are we going to have additional staff members required to administer the system, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so the costing is based on what we saw from those peer systems and the average cost per hour that they pay. So that sort of ranges somewhere from around $70 up to about $95 for those peer systems. So we have a rate in the middle there. Generally, contracted systems are cheaper per hour, and for a smaller municipality like yourselves, that's usually where they tend to go, but not always. Ultimately, at this sort of phase 1 stage, we haven't set, whether it would be municipally run or privately run. So there could be municipal employees should you choose to go that way. If you were to partner with Pembroke and the Ottawa River Transit service, that is contracted, and you would expect that any further employees required to run that service would be through that contract.
Thank you for that. Just another part to that question, and I'll circle back to that later on. But
Further questions from members of the council? You want to cycle back to you right now?
all right. So this report did not reference any capital startup costs required. Presumably that would be a phase 2 thing as well. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Coutu.
Thank you, Mayor Service. Less a question, more a comment, but I really appreciated how grounded this report was in all of the work that this town has previously done, like the community profile, the active transportation plan, our official plan, the business retention expansion project. So I just appreciate when you were going through the solution exploration, all of that, this was all grounded in what we heard about community need. So for me, this report, I answered a lot of questions as you presented that solution. So just a big thank you for how this report was written and how much you captured.
Okay, part of the discussion today is centering around whether we should continue with phase 2. And I guess this is a question for you, unless somebody else wants to take it on. In terms of the funding for the phase 2, if you could just, and more so for anybody watching or people that are members of the public here in town council, could you explain the funding for phase 2?
So I'm not sure if Ms. Rakowski wants to chime in as well, but my understanding is that it's already budgeted for and is funded largely by a federal government Rural Transit Solutions Fund grant, but it's certainly not asking for any additional funding. But Ms. Rakowski.
Thank you, Mayor Service, and thank you, Thomas, for your presentation. So as part of the attached staff report, I did explain the approved budget for this whole project was $65,000, and the library board provided a $1,000 in-kind donation for the use of the Rotary Room. The bid amount from Dillon Consulting, so phase 1 was just over $46,000, phase 2 is almost $14,000, for a total bid amount of $59,900 plus HST, which is below our established budget of $65,000. So should council proceed with phase 2, the project will remain under budget and will exhaust the grant funds. So we did receive $50,000 from the federal government to do this public transportation feasibility study. Should we not proceed with phase 2 and there's grant funds left over, we do have to return that to the federal government. But following a completion of phase 2, council is not obligated to proceed with any solution recommended through phase 2, but the work is done and it's there should in the future you want to proceed with establishing a service.
Thanks. Thanks to the both of you. I just wanted to make sure that the public was aware that now that we begin discussions of phase 2, that it was already under budget and we're not looking for other money to take this extra step. And it's great that you pointed out that even if we do complete phase 2, that it doesn't mean that we're tied to moving anything forward. Are there any other questions from members of council? No? Okay, I just want to point out that I'm kind of amazed that the tiny town of Petawawa has reached this stage that we're contemplating public transportation. We have unofficially passed 20,000 in population, and we're still growing. So I think it's important that we take these next steps and explore these potential opportunities as our community continues to grow. We're not just a one street town anymore with everybody gathered around the one street. We have large subdivisions on other streets, and more we see that some of our arterial roads are becoming busier because there's large populations out there. So I think it's great that we underwent this study. Thanks to Thomas and Dylan Consulting for putting in all this work and showing us a potential path forward. And I guess I'll leave that there and just open up for questions from council contemplating proceeding with phase 2. I just wanted to see if anybody had any comments with that. Councillor Roots.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Dylan, for the presentation. Very well, good. No, I think we should move to the next phase. The finances in place, studies there, and I think we should take another look, and this will bring us more information to make a proper decision for our residents here. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Dunn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excellent work on phase 1. There's a lot of good information there. Certainly, if we're looking at grant money that's been provided to move forward through phase 2, I would certainly support that going forward from there.
Thank you. Any further? Deputy Mayor Sadler?
I seem to be Michael's. Thank you. Overwhelmed with links. Yes, I too would be in agreement with proceeding with phase 2. It certainly is going to give us more information to make a more fulsome decision. And I also liked the fact that you talked about the province potentially having funding for a regional integration of transportation services. So that gives us an opportunity to explore what that could look like as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Kearney.
I too support moving ahead with phase 2. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Coutu.
Thank you, Mr. Service. To my other comments, phase 1 seemed to lead to a very promising potential solution to a problem that is real. Like, talking to people in our community, when I bring this up, I'm not sure, fellow councillors, what your reaction, what you hear, but I always hear, oh, that'd be amazing, because for a lot of people, that's a barrier. When I see the way we could connect the base to our businesses to, people in Pembroke, it's amazing. So the devil's in the details, let's find those details. That's phase 2, very much in favor. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Just to add on to the commentary from the public, I've had a few meetings with Algonquin College recently, and the common theme with Algonquin and the leadership there was that all of their students are pretty much forced to live in Pembroke because not a lot of them have their own vehicle transportation. So when all of these students come from outside of our town and some from other countries, not a lot of them are bringing vehicles with them. And that kind of shuts Petawawa out as a place where these students can reside. So to have transportation that would allow for a student from Algonquin College to travel, live in our town and travel to and from school would be a big benefit both to our town and to the enrollment at Algonquin College. And in a recent meeting with the garrison, because of the recent recruiting push on by the Canadian Armed Forces, there are a lot of new recruits coming to Petawawa. It started already, and there's going to be a huge increase in the near future. What the base command said to me is that not a lot of these new young military members are coming here with cars because they're coming from cities and they go to live in the apartments up on the garrison and are finding out quickly that if they want to get around in this town, they need a vehicle, but none of them have it. So to provide that transportation for military members to get off the garrison and into town and back on would be huge for the community as well. Okay, so I think what I'm hearing is everybody is in agreement with moving forward to phase 2. So if you're comfortable with that, I need a motion. Moved by Councillor Roots, seconded by Councillor Coutu. The council authorizes Dylan Consulting Limited to proceed with phase 2 of the public transportation feasibility study. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Thomas, it looks like you're gonna have some more work to do. Thank you again for all of the work you put in, and thank you for joining us this evening and giving us a good presentation. Hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Okay, we're going to carry on with Fire and Emergency Services Monthly Activity Report for April. Acting Chief Prue, another busy month, I guess, unfortunately.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, members of council. For the report, starting off with the chief's comments. Attended a number of pressure meetings with due to the floods on the Petawawa and the Ottawa. So looking at the waters, the levels are receding, which is positive. We had a couple meetings with the fire chiefs and fire chiefs meeting, and then the fire hall design. For instance, we had 13. I'll just speak to a few of them. We had 2 lithium batteries that exploded, one in a house, one in a garage. The one in the home was a close call because in the middle of the night, there was a young child in the bed, and the device exploded, caught fire on the mattress. Fortunately, one of the parents were with the child and were able to put the fire out. And the second one was an explosion from a e-bike in a garage. So we remind the residents that if they're using these devices that they're CSA approved or approved by ULC Canada, and if they're charging devices that they're using the proper cords, because they're designed to shut off before they overheat the batteries. So we had a mutual aid call in Laurentian Valley for a structure fire. As our crews arrived, they were relocated to a second structure fire in our municipality. Everybody made it out. We did able to knock the fire down, and we determined a cause, but we're still working with the other investigators from the insurance. For training, the crews completed the wildland training and some structural scenarios, as well as a recruit training where we just hired on 3 firefighters. So they're going through that process. And yeah, we said minor vehicle maintenance and some equipment that were tested for this year. For fire prevention, we had a total of 17 businesses that were inspected, brought us up to 21, as well as smoke alarms. Residents was 21, brings us up to 62 for the date, and 909 for the burning. And that's my report for April.
Thank you, Greg. I'll open it up for questions from members of council. Councilor Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for the report, Greg. The lithium batteries is getting worse and worse. I don't know we've been doing more of it with fire prevention, but like, how has that been received from the public? Or are people actually being surprised a little bit more by what these can cause? I mean, you're getting more and more fires for it, so it's not like it's going to slow down because everything has lithium batteries now.
I haven't really had many questions from the public. We've been pushing a lot of information, public ed, on our websites and whatnot. Yeah, this will be a growing concern for our community, and it's just going to push hard with the prevention and try to get the message out. I know that the one worry that we have is people charging these e-bikes and everything, and their means of egress are out their doors to where they exit the homes. But we're just going to push with our public ed. I think that's all we can do at this point. But
Just to follow up on the lithium battery, I know you mentioned that you wanted the public to make sure everything is CSA approved. So from not just the incidents here in Petawawa, but incidents, I guess, province-wide, are the majority of these lithium battery fires with not CSA approved batteries or equipment?
some of them are, they're purchased from other countries that don't have the safety regulations, the safety standards. They should be an approved device that they're going to be used, especially here in Canada. We're still learning a lot about these devices, but they can be they can be safe if they're used properly. And I think that's because we're early in the stages with lithium batteries coming through, that, yeah, we have to get the education out to the public. But when you purchase elsewhere away from North America, I'm not sure what you're getting. And for me to comment on that, I'd have to do a little more investigation because I don't know what the safety parameters are from the manufacturers from other countries, but I know that Canada and the United States have like Canadian ULC Underwriters Laboratory, and then there's other ones as well. So just as long as it has an approved safety stamp on it, then it should be used, might be safer.
Okay, thanks. Further questions or comments on the report? Just a quick one about the 3 new firefighters. I know that often when we hire volunteer firefighters, that many of them are already fully trained firefighters. So can I ask this, are these 3 new ones already previously trained? And obviously that cuts down a lot on their training time.
Yeah, so the 3 new members will have the pre-service course, which is makes them certified. And now we're just getting them some experience. So since they've been with us, they've been busy. So they're getting some experience.
Okay, any other questions? Then I need a motion to approve the report. Moved by Councillor Carmody, seconded by Deputy Mayor Sadaver, that the Fire and Emergency Services monthly activity report be accepted as information. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Thanks, Greg. Next, we have the Planning and Development monthly activity report for April. Melanie, the floor is yours. Starting to get busy in the planning department.
Good evening.
Not that you weren't already busy. Starting to get busier.
Spring is upon us. So the report before you just basically outlines the planning reports that council saw in April. You'll notice under other beyond normal departmental activities, normally I list meetings or webinars that are a little bit different than our normal everyday meetings with developers and homeowners. There's nothing for April. I was away a good chunk of the month and staff kept the normal day-to-day stuff going, but we didn't really have anything special in April. Under policy reviews and updates, in the past, we've kind of listed the policies we're working on. I added a status column this month just so we can keep track of how we're doing, what the status is on these updates. Next month, I'll take the complete ones off the list. You'll notice that for a lot of the ones that we have listed, the provincial government has recently announced further changes to the Planning Act for some of these items like parkland dedication, site plan control, official plan formats. So some of these policy reviews are in a little bit of a hold pattern until we get some more direction from the provincial government. So we take 2 steps forward and then we're kind of back 1, and then 2 forward and then back 1. But we are tracking all of this stuff, trying to make some headway. In Appendix A, active planning applications, I'll just point out we had a couple new applications in April. We have an official plan amendment that will be before council in June. And the request to purchase shoreline rollout. So a couple new applications that council will see soon. And then Appendix B, the monthly building report for building permits. You'll see April 27 permits issued. And as soon as the nicer weather comes, then the permit count goes way up. Just for a point of reference, in May so far, so 6 business days, we've issued 15 building permits already in May. So definitely as soon as the nice weather comes, the permits are way up. Just for a little information for council and the public, when a complete building permit application is submitted, the building code gives our building department 10 days to review those complete applications. And I checked with the building department today, and we generally fall within that 10-day review. There are some outliers if a whole bunch come in on one day, volume, or complexity, but in general, we're able to issue this many permits and stay within our 10-day review period. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions on the monthly report? Deputy Mayor Saffron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just thinking as you were talking about the 10-day window, I think Cloud Permit has really helped to gather documents and speed the process along from a contractor perspective if they're doing their work. And I'm only saying that because I know a contractor very well, and he has really appreciated learning that system. It was pretty daunting at first, but it's really made a lot more sense for him. So I think that's a really good purchase. But the other thing I'd like to say is thank you for updating a status column on your policies. That is really, really helpful. And I was looking at the park dedication, and I thought, what potentially could the government have to say about that? But I guess that's in your court right now, and you'll let us know. Thank you, Melanie.
Further questions or comments on the report? I need a motion then to accept the report. Moved by Councillor Donovan, second by Councillor Driscoll, that the Planning and Development Monthly Activity Report be accepted as information. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Thanks, Melanie. Next, we have the Economic Development Monthly Activity Report for April. Christine. Everything going well?
So far, so good. Thank you, Mayor and members of council. Just some quick highlights from the monthly report for April. As a note, Petawawa Animal Hospital has relocated to their new built space at 64 Water Tower Road. In the month of April, we also recognize Mike's Hardware Doors and So Much More for their 10th year anniversary. And as council received the Retail B site plan and supported the Retail B site plan to proceed onto a development plan, we've been working diligently, more so than ever, with the proponents to realize this development and hope that it comes to fruition quite soon in the town of Petawawa. With regards to communication and marketing, the traditional outreach is documented for you in the report. Added to that is the facilitations of the new town map, which has been sent to the printers, and so we do expect to have a new copy of our 2026 town Zed card map. In terms of partner engagements, I did co-host and facilitate the Chamber of Commerce AGM breakfast on April the 16th in collaboration with the City of Pembroke at the Nook Creek. And we are planning in partnership with the county, Renfrew County Community Futures Development Corporation, the Chamber, and Algonquin College, a community leadership exchange breakfast focused on the community well-being sectors. This event is planned to take place on June 2nd at Algonquin College, and we're already seeing great participation for registration in that activity. Staff are supporting community week engagements for medical learners. So between LP, the City of Pembroke, and the town of Petawawa, we have 2 group outings with these learners in the month of May and June planned. The month of May is the kickoff for the Petawawa Container Market. It did coincide with the Petawawa Showcase this year, so our kickoff was delayed to this past weekend. Despite some cold weather, we had some great participation, and vendors are happy and engaged. We are working with Entrepreneurs for Change program again this year to bring students to the market. This year, the Entrepreneur for Change market will happen between 11 and 2 on May the 22nd. There's more than 40 businesses being represented by the Entrepreneurs for Change students. So members of the public and members of council are invited to attend that event. We are continuing to work towards the Petawawa Ramble, being the 8th annual edition this year. Of particular interest, again, the expression of interest for the Petawawa letter sign. It did close. In total, we received 26 EOI submission requests with 8 final submissions. A jury panel of 5 reviewed and scored the submissions, and a selected artist was identified and informed, and the other artists were notified. So we are moving forward with the artwork for the Petawawa Letterside project. And then in other activities, just as a final note, we did conduct interviews, and we did successfully hire a summer student for our market operations and business support associate position. And one final item upcoming is to remind everybody to participate if they can, or to support the grand opening for Dante's Delicatessen, which is Wednesday at 11 a.m.
Thank you, Christine. Questions on the report? That's exciting to hear. We have more grand openings upcoming, and I'm assuming the Petawawa Animal Hospital will have some kind of ribbon cutting upcoming as well. That's good to hear. And you're already talking about the Ramble next May. So it's good to hear that there's some excitement building on that great event already. Okay, if there are no questions, I need a motion to accept the report. Moved by Councillor Coutu, second by Councillor Carmody, that the Economic Development Monthly Activity Report be accepted as information. We'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Okay, next up we have ED-07-2026, another community improvement plan for 3468 Petawawa Boulevard, Unit C. Christine.
Yeah, so this request is for up to $1,000 under the signage improvement grant through the CIP program endorsed by council. It's simply for the replacement of the lens of the existing fascia opening on the commercial unit. Council will note that this was a vacated unit, vacated by Christie's Hair Design, who retired and relocated from the community. So the leasee of the property is already an existing tenant operating within the plaza, looking to expand the operations and diversify some of the service provisions. And so it is really an opportunity for this business to receive a little bit of funding support for the signage. It is completely eligible under the signage program, and we do have funding available within the CIP grant program, should council be willing to support.
Thank you. Questions from members of council? Okay, before I read this motion, I should have asked you this before. How do you pronounce Kaya Hamilton's last name? I'm just going to do my best. Okay. Okay, if you're comfortable with this CIP plan, I need a motion to move forward. Moved by Deputy Mayor Sabrin, seconded by Councillor Roots, that council, under the Community Improvement Plan adopted by Bylaw 1441/21, enters into a funding agreement with Kaya Hamilton Chakucha, a Dollhouse Beauty Bar, authorized applicant for the commercial property located at 3468 Petawawa Boulevard, Unit C, providing CIP financial incentive of up to $1,000 under the signage improvement grant. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Thanks, Christine. Next, we have the monthly activity report for recreation, culture, and tourism. Colin, the floor is yours.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Here with the April report for Council to accept monthly report information. Over the course of April, good mix of meetings. Just excited to report on April 9th, I had the opportunity to meet with Explore Magazine, which is an outdoor adventure publication that goes right across Canada and to the States. This is an opportunity that we've never had before. There's a large article that I'll bring to council once it's produced, thanks to collaboration between the municipal mat tax and the OBTA mat tax. So that was something that was able in part of fund that project. So I'll be bringing that forward or passing it forward in the next month or so. And I also had a tourism working group meeting that we hosted different locations. This month was at Pine Ridge. We've had a lot of good feedback from this group and a lot of ideas put forward. So we'll be continuously working on some of that with these groups. Shaman was able to attend. She sort of taking the spearhead lead on the recreation programs and events and tourism networking group. That is a group that meets with various Renfrew County municipalities to sort of share ideas, share concepts, and problem solve with all municipalities involved right across Renfrew County and the various recreation and tourism departments. I also had a meeting for discussions with the Greater Petawawa Minor Hockey Association as far as their needs and moving forward and other considerations for the upcoming years. And the last meeting or trade show for myself was at the Outdoor Adventure Show in Ottawa, which was a collaboration with Mountain Valley. So this was an opportunity to work with Mountain Valley to promote themselves as well as Petawawa and the collaboration that we have with Water and Dirt, which was very successful, and in turn not only had the opportunity to talk to probably a few thousand people. I was very hoarse after that trade show. I actually was able to sort of receive and meet with different groups that are now sponsoring events or sponsoring prizes. So not only was it beneficial to share information, financially it was beneficial. Very proud to say that not only did we have successful camps this summer, but we successfully hired all of our counselors and other staff, including the canteen and mini putt, as well as all the staff that are required to operate the services down at the point. So we have all our staff, so knock on wood, everything will go forward. As you can see, I won't go through them all, but it was a busy program month for April. All programs offered. This is on top of what staff do day to day as we get ready for a busy summer. So I won't go through all the programs that are offered. You can see it is a busy month for us as per usual. As far as the rental activity, it has quietened down a bit. We are obviously in the transition right now between the ice coming out with all the trade shows going on and shifting over to preparing the fields and activities that are outdoors. So as you know, as years gone by, this is sort of our transition time, so our rentals are a little lower, but that is anticipated. And then as far as up and coming, you'll see that schedules are going out for Civic Center days. Joe has done a great job. Joe Mickey sort of taking the lead right now as leading some of the various events, even though it's a collaboration with much of our department. He sort of stepped forward with that and put together a great schedule. So I invite council from June 11th to the 14th to take part in some of the events that will be taking place. And as well, we are ramping up for another July 1st Canada Day. So that'll be something coming up in the next months or so. So I will encourage you to get a hold of Joan Ellie as council members. Historically, I'm sure many of you have been there, to hand out hot dogs, cakes, be there. So if you are available, please reach out to the two of them to volunteer your time. That'd be much appreciated on my behalf as well as theirs. And that's my report for the month.
Okay, thanks, Phil. Gearing up for another busy summer.
Really.
I'll open it up for questions from members of council. Councilor Lutz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Colin. And just in regards to discussions with the minor hockey for Petawawa, are we getting anywhere with the garrison in regards to some shared services for minor hockey maybe, or any other sports activities?
In my discussions with them, it's on average right now, I think the garrison's probably at capacity as well for their hours. Currently minor hockey, I don't have the exact numbers, but they use over 600 hours of ice at the Civic Center. And from what I've been informed, I haven't had a chance to fact check it, but they informed me that they use over 700 hours at the garrison. So these are all, as we move forward, things to take into consideration as we make decisions for the future.
Thank you, Colin.
Further questions or comments? Okay, if you're comfortable then, I need a motion to accept the report. Moved by Councillor Root, seconded by Councillor Donovan, that the Recreation, Culture and Tourism Monthly Activity Report be accepted as information. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Next, we have RCT-07-2026, the Municipal Alcohol Policy. And you brought some backup.
Yes, I brought knowledgeable people with me, so this is not good. She is our facilities services liaison. So Lana does a lot of work as far as everything from canteen to mini putt to anything with food related services, alcohol, and a pile of other stuff in between. She will know more about the AGCO and the regulations and has been basically vital at helping me put together and revising the map. So I've invited her here because I think she's more than able to answer any additional questions beyond what I have in the report. So at this time, I'd like to recommend that council approves the updated municipal alcohol policy as presented, and that council approves the terms and conditions for the alcohol, cannabis, smoking, and substance use at municipal facilities and public spaces presented. To give you a bit of a background, the map of municipal alcohol policy is a governance document that establishes clear guidelines and procedures for the safe and responsible service, consumption, and management of alcohol in municipal owned operated facilities and events. This document is something that has been around for probably a better part of a decade. It is a bit of a living document as things from the AGCO change or items that the town needs to address to lower its risk and liability. We will continuously change it. It means changing it every year, 2 years, as we see fit. This is something we will continue to do over time to ensure the safety of our residents and the safety for the municipality legally. As far as discussion, we will continue to work with Petawawa Civic Center fundraising community groups and events organizers to ensure that alcohol-related events are managed in a safe and responsible manner, which will include organizers receiving and reviewing the documentary events and additional signage in prominent locations throughout the various municipal facilities, and continuous contact with AGCO representatives regarding new information. And this will, again, will act as a living document, so it can change from year to year as council approves. Just to go through some of the document to identify quickly changes that were made in the definitions area. The new map, the definitions for events workers were added in. We go along the types of special events that we're addressing. The types of special events occasion permits may include. If you skip down to the bring your own or formerly tailgate, this is a new section that we have added to the document, as well as the no sale bring your own permits and the addition of the information for the sale of your own. So these are all areas that was needed to be added for us to keep our risk low. I'll also be discussing that in the next document as well. Under the regulation 1.2, the licensed and approved premises, the recently added, thank you again, Lana, was the area is the Civic Center Arena, and it's the slab only during off season and excludes the spectator seating areas. If you carry on to section 1.5, this was added and was at the recommendation of our insurance company. So that's why this section was added once it was reviewed by our current company as well. Regulation 2.2 trade shows. This was at the choice of the municipality, that full section to address that, and again, lower our risk. Other areas, this was outlined and revised with the EGCO is regulation 2.4 and security. And the provision of food was updated. That's regulation 2.5 to address what we have to do as far as providing food and what the town would look at as minimums and what we can do to sort of complement the event. Additionally updated in the consumption and control, this covers the area of what can be served, how much, just to address the standard drink sizes, in keeping in mind that craft beer or what's considered or called tall boys, larger cans. This was added to this list to also address those that in the serving amount, so that we could include those larger cans into the serving of alcohol at the facility. I believe. The last thing is the recommendations came from the insurance in the area of the minimum recommended requirements for alcohol service staffing. This was under the risk factor that was also addressed by our insurance company. So those are all the changes that were made to keep this document as up to date as we possibly can. And again, ensure that our residents are safe while they're taking part in events, as well as keeping the liability and risk down. I can take any questions about the section on the map, and then otherwise I can move on to the additional terms and conditions for the alcohol, cannabis, and smoking.
Okay, we'll take a pause there, and if anybody has any questions about the municipal alcohol policy, any of the changes or updates. Deputy Mayor Sadler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Colin. I found it quite hard to keep up. You were very efficient. So I was just mostly scrolling. Just under the failure to comply 1.5, we talk about what we can do to people who are bringing alcohol in and things like that. I guess what concerns me about somebody running an event, they don't necessarily have control over, and just like our events, we don't have control over, we don't search bags, we don't do all of those kind of things. What actually happens to the individual who is caught, and what can we do to address that? Is really where I'm going with that, because that is what happens. And like I said, we're not a big event where we have everybody search their bags and do all that. So you don't know who's bringing in what, and that's not necessarily in our purview. So just your thoughts on that, please.
So I would look at it per case by case basis. If someone is bringing in, say, some alcohol and we're asking to remove it, it can be removed by security. Depending on what their reaction is, asking them to leave the facility. Where this comes from is also areas like tournaments, drinking in the dugout. This is choices that we can make as a department as well to move forward if we see repeat offenders. Say purely as an example, a baseball team was repeat offenders. This would be the discussion of, first step we have a discussion, second step we have a discussion of there's a loss of a rental, which means one game, and then moving forward to loss of contract. We've got to take this seriously as far as we are a licensed facility. Anything that, even though it's not our game and we're not implementing the sport and what's going on, it still puts municipal license at risk. If someone leaves intoxicated, we are still at part and responsible for that. So we need to take this very seriously.
Okay, thank you for that. And just under the regulation 4.2, consumption control, sorry, I'm just going to go. I'm just catching up to this where my head is at. Oh, the sufficient supply of non-alcoholic beverages should be available at a lower price than alcoholic beverages. At one time in our policy, we actually spoke about supporting local businesses and making them as a choice. I didn't see that in here anywhere, and I'm wondering if it was taken out or what the thought was, because I think it was important to put in so that we could show our support for our local businesses. And then the second piece to that is it says should be available at a lower than alcoholic beverages, and I think that was substantially lower was originally. So I'm just wondering where those pieces are and maybe the thought process to why they're not there. Thank you.
So I'll let Lana speak to the first point, but I'll just cover the second point. Substantially lower for non-alcoholic. That can include pot. That doesn't necessarily need to be non-alcoholic drinks. It's non-alcoholic beer, non-alcoholic wine. We already do offer pot, water. We can also include coffee. Those are all alternatives that are substantially cheaper than alcohol itself. So we don't necessarily have our non-alcoholic beer at the same price or cheaper, but we do have options that are cheaper.
Okay, thank you for that. That's much clearer.
Lana talked to the first part.
So for the first one, it was mostly the price difference is almost the same cost if you get non-alcoholic and alcoholic now. So I think that was the reasoning. They're still gonna try and have some of those available, you know, to have. But whenever you look at the cost difference, they're the same cost. So how fundraising kind of put it to me was with the price of the pop and the water and having everything else available.
And as far as just addressing the first component, which was the buying local.
Oh, yes, so buy local. So again, as talks with fundraising committee, with the buying local, we are always going to try and buy local. Sometimes it's harder to get the product in and keep it up to the date before it expires and whatnot. So it is something though that they do continuously look for local product.
Oh,
Thank you. And first of all, thank you, Lana, for the education on the non-alcoholic beverages, because the way it's now been explained to me in many places is that it actually, you have to de-alcoholize the beer, which is a whole other process, and that's why the non-alcoholic beer is usually very similar in price, so I appreciate that. I guess for me, I think that we need to support our businesses, and that's one of the reasons why we have this in here, and I think we can, you know, we've got local businesses that we can buy 5 cans or 6 cans. We don't need to buy 26 cases in order to get a great deal, or not pay the penalties for not ordering. So if it's, we'll see what the rest of the council thinks, but I would like to see that back in there. Thank you.
Councillor Coutu.
Thank you, Mayor Service. With regards to the bring your own, I'm wondering, have we set up a process to decide which events are cultural community events for those regulations?
So as far as the, and I'll get into that a little bit later as well, for, it's something that we're recommending that council not to. In supporting again of our local, we have the Petawawa fundraising committee. We strongly believe that any alcohol that's being purchased should be purchased through that. There's a lot of steps we would have to take as far as bringing your own or supplying your own. If they want to use our bar, we would have to remove every bar for them to use the bar. And I think we have a great volunteer group where the funds go back into the community. So I think if there was an event where they wanted a specific wine, or if they wanted to bring in a certain, we can accommodate that. So I think by not addressing the fact that we're going to open it up and put risk at it, because we have, if it is a bring your own, it's harder to manage the risk of, was that brought in, that outside alcohol. So I think by mitigating the risk around any alcohol that we brought in and be purchased through the, so that would be my recommendation to council.
Follow-up question, I didn't realize it was optional. So if that is and that's your recommendation, I completely agree. Thank you.
Just to follow up on that chain of thought there, it's my understanding that the province was merely floating this bring your own tailgate, that it hasn't been entrenched into law yet. Is that correct?
I think they're still in the process of pushing it forward, which I also address in the policy. Just to sort of skip ahead, it is something, and I think in the promotion of the tailgating concept, I think what's clearly missed is this is not pull up with a case of beer in the back of your vehicle. Right now, staff are working extremely hard to try and get away from that concept. What it is you still have to apply for a special occasions permit to put on that event. So to sort of paint the picture, if we had Christine's event at the market where there is alcohol being served, SOP is used for that event. So that would sort of fall in suit with that. And we'd have to approve that at council level as well for something like that to move forward. I'm trying to get away with it to not muddy the waters, that people can, you know, play a hockey game, be part of a tournament, and then just pull up in the back of the building, drop the tailgate on the pickup truck and start drinking inside. Back to the fact that I had mentioned before, this puts the municipality at risk. This is on municipal property. And again, puts the chance of our losing or having our license suspended, because if there is primarily an event going on upstairs with a hall serving, that's where they're at risk. I would like to personally stay away from that. I'm sure the council members will put our license or put the municipality at risk.
Yeah, you make a good point there. However, this all still allows for events like our craft beer fest and a whiskey tasting. As long as they apply for the proper paperwork, those events can still exist under this present framework.
Yeah, so very much we've been following that for many years. That is actually one that puts forward our applications for anything that's outside of the listed facilities and locations. We host the Craft Beer Fest, which is not an approved location. And we'll paint out the picture of where that facility will be, where it's going to take place, work closely with the AGCO. So it's very much in the same area, but we are following the rules, fencing off the area, providing security. This is not just, what we're trying to avoid is basically those free-for-alls.
Okay, good point. So I just want to follow up on something Deputy Mayor said about people bringing their own alcohol into our events and us not having the capability to search bags or search people. But let's just say that one of our Civic Center staff or a volunteer bartender notices that somebody has a product that we don't sell. So what are our rights in terms of our employees and the volunteer bartenders when they approach that person and say, hey, that item is not sold here? And then do we have the right to then say, can I look in your bag? Because I think you might have some more in there. What are the rights, or do we have to tell someone?
So I'll let Anna just cover that, because this is something she went into detail with the AGCO.
So with this kind of a circumstance, what you do is, and it states it right in the policy, the window is to be shut to the bar and all alcohol services to stop until it has been kind of reviewed by the servers, whoever's serving, until they feel safe that it's been taken care of. That person then would be addressed and most likely have to leave, might not get to come to the next event, next following events. So it is kind of up to the bartenders and the people serving to take control, and they're under full obligation actually to stop service.
So stop service, if you ask the individual to leave or to produce other alcohol and they don't,
Yeah.
then you can shutter the bar. But it puts staff or volunteer bartenders in a very complicated or difficult position. I mean, you would virtually then have to point out the person and say the bar is closed because that person.
Yeah, and it would just be a temporary, but according to the AGCO, that is what's supposed to happen, just so we can take control of the situation and, you know, get it under control, make sure that we know where the alcohol is coming from, making sure that it's only our alcohol being sold and, right?
I'm just not sure if our volunteer bartenders have been briefed on this policy and the way that it's supposed to roll out. It almost seems like, I know every volunteer bartender has a smart sort of qualification, but I don't know if that qualifies them to take that kind of action. It would almost seem better to get a member of the staff up to make that call. And I don't know, it almost seems like we need either to include that in our policy or have a separate policy where the volunteer bartenders and the Civic Center staff.
So it is something that I've been talking with, oh my gosh, Chrissy Jellifer. Sorry, we have been discussing it, and I mean, of course, they would be supportive. It wouldn't, you know, they have the right to shut the window if they feel that the service is not going as the policy states. If the policy is not being followed, then she has, or whoever is serving, has the right to stop serving at that time. It is something that I'm working on with Chrissy, and she understands. Like, it's kind of a learning process as well, because before we didn't really have these policies in place. If there was a commotion or something happening, we would get staff involved. Well, not all of our staff has been trained to deal with this particular situation. So it is something that we're working on, definitely.
Just to follow up on that, the requirements for service for as far as security are at various events where we're going to see on the last page. Security does have, they are trained, they are licensed, they're insured to remove people from the facility. So once we start looking at some of those larger events that do have security, and that is a recommendation that we put forward, that the department and the town needs to be comfortable with the size of the event, what the event is, what the event is bringing in. Security do have the training and the insurance to remove people from the facility. So that doesn't put our staff at risk either. Our staff aren't trained to remove people physically from the facility, but we hire for our events security to come in for that. So that would be their role to come in.
And often from someone who does volunteer bartend, often late at night when you do call for staff, sometimes it's a 15 or 16-year-old student who's working, and that's probably not a position you want to put them in, to have to make the call to shut down service. Something that maybe needs some future exploration. I saw Councillor Carmen, or was it Deputy Mayor Simon? Okay.
I note that it does talk about the bartenders, the event organizers, and staff working as a team. So that, I think that's been part of the training, is that you always go to the staff, and recognizing what Mayor Service says, there's always a facility operator in charge, and that's the person that we would definitely want to be dealing with. So not to put that 16-year-old or 17-year-old, they're great at bringing us some supplies and doing all that kind of stuff, but for sure, and so I'm sure that will work out well. So I guess I just want to ask the question with respect to the alcohol purchasing from our local business owners who are in the business, if there is any, if it's just me who would like to see that re-included, or if there's anybody else that supports that, and if it's only me, then so be it. Thank you.
Councillor Couture.
Thank you, Mayor Service. Much like in our procurement bylaw, I think it is a good idea to put something in there pointing people to our local businesses. They are the ones who pay a lot of taxes and keep things running and support a lot of these community events. So I like that community wealth development aspect, and I would support that.
Further comments on that? Personally, I would also support that as well. I know we worked hard to get that included into the document the first time that we did the edits. So I think it would be good to have that back in. I don't know if we need to specifically list, because sometimes they close and new ones start, but to have a general statement where we will support local suppliers as much as possible, I think is a good idea.
Yes. Yeah, we can easily add that, and I would leave it as an because instead of having to review this document every time businesses come, change, owners change, so on and so forth, I would just recommend that we do put in a general statement to support local. That's probably what's already in place. We can have that amended.
Any other questions in terms of the municipal alcohol policy? So this is pretty good. Okay, I guess we'll move on to the next.
So just to follow suit for everyone that's just reviewed this, this is just a document that we will provide renters who come in for special events, general renters for ice, football, hockey, anything that just addresses the fact that there's already municipal and provincial law in place stating that there is council put in a bylaw that there's no smoking on any of the properties, all town properties. So that includes where we fall into place of people smoking in front of the civic center, people smoking in public playgrounds, and so on and so forth. But this would also follow suit to address some of the issues like the tailgating, consuming alcohol or cannabis products on site. So this is a document that can accommodate and sort of complement the map, but it's a separate document that we can also put forward in all of our rentals to make it that much clearer that the municipality will not tolerate and have sort of a zero tolerance with those things, so that it's something that they can pass on to people in their teams, co-workers and stuff that run events on municipal property. This document will just sort of reinforce everything being put forward as far as having a zero tolerance when it comes to alcohol, cannabis, smoking, and substance use on any municipal grounds. So that's the reason for this being a separate complementing document, separate from today. So we're just looking to share this as information that will be complementing this with all of our rental facility agreements going forward to sort of reinforce that as much as we can. If you had any questions on sort of the wording or any of the definitions or any of the information, I've already covered the section on the bring your own or the tailgate. That's one of the biggest things we're trying to address. And then I think we've already addressed Deputy Mayor, the enforcement and the penalties and the responsibilities for each and permit holders.
Okay, any questions about the terms and conditions document? Everybody's good with that? I'll go back. Any last questions or comments on the municipal alcohol policy? I have one, sorry, I have one quick one. I had it written down and missed it. Just that I know that there's the 2 drink maximum and the 6 ticket maximum and the no double drinks. I guess in terms of the biggest pushback you get from the community, those would be the 3 items that you get the most pushback on. And I'll even give you an example of the no double drink policy. So what has to happen is you have to sell them 2 single drinks, and then they will pour the other drink into the one glass and give you the dirty glass. So you're not really technically selling them a double, but you kind of have. So I'm just not sure. I get why it's written into the policy to prevent overconsumption of alcohol, but I'm not sure how that stops it by saying you can't order it.
So as far as due diligence wise, you're serving 2 single drinks or then done your due diligence. You serve them 2 double drinks. We need to ensure that what's being put forward by the AGCO was recommended by our insurance. This is what we need to make sure that we're putting forward. So as long as we're checking all the boxes, what the client decides to do with that afterwards, we cannot. So if they put one glass together, that's their choice. We need to ensure that we're serving 2 doubles, making sure that we're not serving them to over intoxication to make everything. So only being able to serve so many at a time, only limiting how many tickets. These are the steps we need to make sure to keep that in place.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure, as long as we're following the policy and doing our due diligence, that liability is okay. Okay. Any other questions on any of those? Okay, so the first motion has changed just a little bit. So I'll let you know that it now reads, the council approves the updated municipal alcohol policy as amended to include a buy local provision. So if you're comfortable with that one, I need a motion. Moved by Deputy Mayor Savern, second by Councillor Donovan. The council approves the updated municipal alcohol policy as amended to include a buy local provision. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. And next we have the council approves the terms and conditions for alcohol, cannabis, smoking, and substance use at municipal facilities and public spaces as presented. I need a motion for that. Moved by Councillor Coutu, second by Councillor Carmody. The council approves the terms and conditions, alcohol, cannabis, smoking, and substance use at municipal facilities and public spaces as presented. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Next up, we have the monthly activity report for April for Public Works. Chris, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Service. Good evening, members of council. So you have my monthly report for April in front of you. I did make some changes to my report
in an effort to make things a little bit easier for council members to look at the various projects that we have ongoing. And I also plan on having a little bit more status and financial updates in there that was requested by members of council. So I will do my best to provide that. Okay, so under the capital works program for civic properties, most of the projects are underway. We have some council reports tonight, one for the LED lighting upgrades. We also have the pickleball court playing surface. That tender is under review. And then under the water and sewer projects, all of those projects are underway. We do have a staff report this evening for the East Street generator. The only one that's waiting is the Woodland Water Tower refurbishment design, which we can get at later this summer. Under the road construction projects, we had our kickoff meeting for Portage Road reconstruction on May 7th, and we're looking for a start date for that project right after the Canada Day long weekend, right at the start of July. So as soon as school buses have stopped, it's essentially what we're aiming for that project. The Norman Street access is well underway. It started early on April 27th and scheduled for completion at the end of June. And just an update there was 5% contingency on that project for a total of $45,000. And to date, we have 2 change orders in the amount of about $5,100. So just an update on the contingencies. I will try my best to keep updating as we move along. The Black Bay Road resurfacing, we had a meeting today with BEI, as well. Teddy Suko and I did a site review. There's 3 crossroad culverts that we would like to change before we proceed with that overlay, but we are looking at a June completion for that project. And then under fleet procurement, we have our plow truck tender is out. It was issued May 1st and it closes on May 19th. And as well, our waste collection contract, we have that RFP was issued April 14th and is closing on May 13th. Just a reminder to mark your calendars for June 3rd and 4th for the Association of Ontario Road Supers trade show. Hope to see everybody out. And then under operations, echoing what Melanie had mentioned, things are ramping up. We had 115 locates completed for contractors, residents, and utility companies in April. So it's getting busier. And on the page 92, just wanted attention there on the rental hot water tank replaced at the Civic Center. I know that it was a question that had come to me last year with regards to rental hot water tanks, and we are doing our best to end that and purchase them outright. Well, there was some good work done at the Civic Center as far as painting in the main lobby, as well as some LED lighting upgrades in the lobby and office area. Some of those are still ongoing. And then under water and sewer, nothing major to highlight there, with the exception of we had 1 additional water main break, which brought our total for 2026 to 3, which I believe is the highest I've seen since I've been employed here. So aiming to bring that number down next year from 3 to 30. Happy to take any questions on the report.
Questions on the report? No questions? Just a comment on the paint in the Civic Center, the lobby and up the stairs. I love the new colors.
Awesome.
It's given it a very fresh look, almost like the building is brand new.
That's good.
And a question about Wilbert Street. I know there's been some meetings with the garrison. Where do we stand right now with the garrison and their plan to put some new roads in there and how that's going to affect what we do with Wilbert?
Yes, so the CAO and I, Steve Webster from JP2G, and garrison staff are meeting tomorrow or Wednesday, sometime this week, for further discussion on the roads, the design of those roads and the construction schedule. So that'll all play into the decision of on Wilbert Street and how we proceed with that as well.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions or comments? And I need a motion to. Oh. Any other questions? No, I need a motion. Okay. I need a motion. Moved by Councillor Roos, seconded by Councillor Carmody, that the Public Works Monthly Activity Report be accepted as information. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Okay, it's carried. Next, we have PW-14-2026, award of tender, PW-12-2026, supply and delivery of LED sport field lighting. Chris?
Okay, thank you, Mayor Service. So tender PW-12-2026 was prepared and advertised on our website and social media pages. There were 21 firms that requested the tender packages, and 4 firms submitted completed tenders rather on the closing date of April 28th at 10 a.m. You have the bids listed in your chart before you. These lights will replace the existing lights on ball field number 2 at the Petawawa Civic Center. The installation of the lights is not included. This is only for supply and delivery. The installation will be procured separately through an RFQ, and those costs will be funded from the remaining capital budget. A little bit of background on this. So in 2025, as part of the approved budget, staff tendered for LED lighting improvements for ball field 1. And this was basically precipitated because we could no longer purchase mercury halide bulbs anymore. So we couldn't replace existing lighting due to that phase out of that style of lighting. And as well, LED lighting provides superior light for field users while also saving money on electricity, and LED lights last substantially longer. So in 2025, you have PW-17-2025 as an attachment where we sought Cooper lighting, and we allowed for equivalent lighting options as part of that tender. Petawawa Electric was the successful bidder in 2025, supplying and delivering Cooper lighting for ball field 1 in the amount of $127,515. Tender PW-12-2026, which is attached as well, was prepared to continue lighting upgrades at the Civic Center, this time addressing ball field 2. This tender sought the supply and delivery of Cooper light fixtures with no equivalency options being allowed in the tender, and the decision is supported through section 16A of the town's procurement bylaw. The reason to seek Cooper lighting fixtures was with no equivalency options is to continue to standardize our community facilities. In its current form, the Civic Center rink, soccer fields both use Cooper lighting along with ball field 1. The facility also uses a Cooper lighting control system that is proprietary and communicates with Cooper lighting fixtures. So staff can control the field lighting and the rink lighting from one location in the operations office at the Civic Center. So in accordance with the town's procurement policy, staff have to seek council approval for this tender award because it exceeds $100,000. The budget for this tender is $153,000 for the supply and delivery of the lights, and funding was included in the approved 2026 budget. So staff are requesting council approve the award of PW-12-2026 for the supply and delivery of LED sport field lighting to the lowest bidder being Petawawa Electric Limited in the amount of $110,580.99 plus HST.
Okay, thanks, Chris. I'll open that up for questions from members of council. Councillor Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. After looking into this, I would like to make a motion we should cancel this tender, which is in our right under section 19.4 procurement policy. Picking one supplier does not give us the best price on a certain lighting. I understand that we've used it in the past, but it's like saying, okay, we're only going to buy a Ford truck. Well, Ford dealership knows we're going to get our business. We're not going to get the best price when we could get a better truck or better price from somebody else. This is the same, and I don't think that we should go ahead with this. I think it should be put off till next year. I think it should be re-tendered with equivalencies because there are other options out there that I believe we can have at a significantly lower cost.
Thanks. Further questions or comments? Councillor Purdue?
My understanding was that the Cooper lighting system was what we were trying to create the commonality. It wasn't Petawawa Electric, the supplier, and I'm grateful if I could be corrected if I'm wrong.
That's correct, Councillor Coutu. We have Cooper lighting that started many years ago in the rink, and then moved to the soccer fields, and then last year ball field 1, and now this year ball field 2. So
you're correct. We are looking to standardize with one type of lighting for the facility.
Councillor Kernan.
Thank you, Mayor Service. I'll support Councillor Driscoll's request. I believe that the taxpayer has the right to know that they're getting the best value for their money. And I think in this case, it's a reasonable request.
Deputy Mayor Sadler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just in regards to Councillor Driscoll's comment about the company installing, I'm understanding that, and if I misheard you, Adam, please correct me. I'm understanding that the tender of installation will be set at a later date. So that means that any business, any locality, anybody who's got that skill set will be able to choose whether or not they will submit a price for that installation. I guess what I'm sort of trying to wrap my head around is the cost savings, or the where we, I don't know what the lower price could be. I don't know that there is a lower price. What I see in front of me is 4 prices that range about $37,000 apart from each other. So I'm not really sure that I'm in a position at this stage to not support this tender. Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Councillor Kuzma.
Thank you, Vice Service. I think I'm curious, what would be the other options if not a Cooper Lighting Solutions? And Councillor Driscoll, if you happen to know, I'd be grateful if you'd share that information.
Councillor Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Absolutely. So when I started looking into this, I was approached that it was strange that we were asking for one supplier or one, and this has nothing to do with the winning bid. It's more of the Cooper lighting aspect we were using. So I didn't know anything about lighting, so I started to look into it. And there are a multitude of other options for suppliers other than Cooper lighting. So I have received prices for some because I got curious. I said, well, what is the difference? And they range from anywhere from $36,000 to $60,000 for an equivalency. Some have 7-year warranties, some have 5-year warranties, same lumens, same wattage. So the amount of money we are going to spend extra, it doesn't justify having one brand across. I understand that that would be nice, but some of these other brands still offer remote controls that they can have an app that you can operate from the Civic Center, the same as Cooper Lighting. Might be a different app, but for a $70,000 decrease in price, I think that is quite suitable.
Councillor Kuzma.
Thank you, Mayor Service. Very grateful, Adam. Thanks for sharing what you've learned. Follow-up question then, building on your knowledge. So if we were to get we already have Cooper lighting systems and some fixtures in the Civic Center. If it were the case, not just a separate app, but would there be different stock that we would need to keep for replacement bulbs, replacement parts, or is there interchangeability? I'm just wondering how much added knowledge we're going to have to put on staff to learn 2 systems, like the integration between the stock for one for the other. I'm thinking about those aspects. I don't know if you have anything to share on those.
For stock wise, I don't know what we keep now. I would imagine any new LED bulb, we might have a couple spares, but then anything else we would order, and I would imagine delivery is quick compared to these older halogen bulbs where delivery is hard to get. And I would hope that staff would be able to operate another app, be able to press a button to operate it that way. I think it's pretty user friendly nowadays. So, and again, it's just a comparable in potential price. And if we're only asking for one, it eliminates any other option, so we're not getting the best competitive price for everything. So that is where I stand on it. So that's why I cannot support it, because of the cost difference without getting any other options.
Councillor Carmody.
Thank you, Mayor Service. Just a question for Chris. How standard are we across the field with Cooper lighting then, like tennis courts, pickleball courts, volleyball items, that sort of thing?
My understanding is everything except pickleball courts at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Sadler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Chris. Chris, is this the last of the replacements, or do we still have replacements ahead of us on some of our fields?
I believe, Deputy Mayor Savarin, the next field would be an entire, it's everything, like the poles, the electrical, and the lightings required for that. So it's a totally different scope. This is the one we're talking about now. Last year, number one, and this year, number two, are essentially removing the bulb from the existing fixture and installing the LED light in the existing fixture. So those two ball lines, that's apples to apples comparison, whereas the next field upgrade is everything, the electrical, the poles, because it's basically an unlit field.
Yeah,
Thank you, Chris, for that. So looking onto that next complete development, let's say, or complete replacement, would it be safe to say that then that you would be also wanting to mirror the Cooper lighting? Like, does that make sense, or is it a totally different own new game? Thank you.
Well, that would depend, that would depend, I guess, on how we proceed this evening. If we were to award and continue with Cooper lighting, it would be, I would imagine, staff's intention to carry on with standardization as we move forward, but staff will adjust accordingly.
Thank you.
So I guess just to follow up on that, so if we do decide not to proceed with this evening's tender, to re-tender for the ball diamond number 2 for lighting, and then we open it up to alternative suggestions. So let's just say when it re-tenders, we choose a different company, then that could be tied in with ball diamond 3 that has no lighting whatsoever right now. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that could be a possibility. I think what I would do if council elects to not award, I would have to meet with the clerk to see exactly how we proceed. Being cautious here with how we proceed with adjusting scopes moving forward. There's some unknowns there that I would need guidance.
Okay, so just for clarification then, if it is decided that we don't proceed with this tender and we do re-tender, is the suggestion or the plan moving forward to merely add and alternatives to the tender as it was tendered in 2025?
Yes, we would. We could look at that, but we would need to adjust the scope of work. We can't really just cancel the tender and then re-tender for the same request for services. I believe the clerk would be able to help me a bit on that.
Would you like to weigh in, Don?
Okay. With this current bid, should council choose to cancel this tender, all bids were compliant with what was tendered in the package. So by canceling it, you could be opening municipality up to litigation for that. Should you do choose to cancel and re-tender at a different time, yes, you should be changing the scope of work significantly.
So just as a suggestion, if it was re-tendered, you perhaps would have to include the installation. So open it up for alternative sources of lighting and add the installation as well to the tender. Does that keep us within legalities?
I want to consult with our solicitor.
Councillor Kerman.
Thank you, Mayor Service. So re-tendering with the added or equivalent is not a significant change to the scope of the We're not significant enough. Okay.
Deputy Mayor Simon?
Well, I'm just thinking there are a number of unanswered questions, as a family in terms of, is there a potential liability? What does that liability look like in terms of the information that I need to make a good decision? So I'm wondering if we should perhaps look at tabling this to have some of these questions answered and brought back to us, and you know, what that approach would look like, because I certainly am not prepared to take on responsibility for having the town sued over something that we just don't have those facts. So that would be my recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Driscoll?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What I would like to see is lots of these companies will offer a free lighting study, essentially, that will give you, this is what we need, direction of lighting. And you take the data that they have provided, you need X amount of lumens or wattage, where you should be pointed it at, and we give that to the suppliers and say, provide us with lights that meet these specs. Not a brand, not a certain model. These are the specs. Give us a light that can do that. That is a complete change in scope, and we add in installation as well. Because then every company has the ability to find their best supplier to get something to meet that standard, and they have the install as well. So correct me if I'm wrong, John, is that a change of scope announced? Give out the data, and then they provide.
Are you capable of answering that now, or do you need to do more research?
Again, I would need to do a little bit more research and see what our system.
Councillor Roots?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chris. I think this is something that should be tabled as we gather some more information on this. I know with lighting, lighting is very, very important, and I know that having everything compatible is important. Like lighting, there's many types of lightness and softness and brightness for shadowing and dark spots. But Adam just mentioned here, I think we need some information here and a different scope on that project. So I think it should be tabled for now.
Okay, so I guess what I'm hearing right now is the general consensus is we need to table this to allow our staff to do a little bit more research, especially in terms of liability and legality, before we make a final decision on that. So are we within our rights to table that?
Yes.
Do I need to call a motion on
Yes.
that? Okay, so looking for a motion to table this tender. Moved by Deputy Mayor Sabrin, seconded by Councillor Kermody. That tender PW 12-2026.
Yes.
Yes?
12.
The award of tender PW 12-2026 be tabled at this time.
Okay, that the award of tender PW 12-2026 be tabled at this time. And I can stop it there. Okay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.
It's PW. Last version is PW 14.
That's the report.
Number.
Yeah.
The tender is PW.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. PW 15-2026, the award of tender PW 10-2026 East Street Pumping Station Generator Replacement. Chris?
Okay, thank you, Mayor Service. So staff are recommending that council approve the award of tender PW 10-2026 Street Pumping Station Generator Replacement to the lowest bidder being JWK Utilities and Site Services Limited in the amount of $188,682.73. So this tender was prepared and advertised on our website and social media pages. 4 general contractors picked up tender documents, and 2 tenders were received on the closing date of May 5th, 2026 at 10 a.m. The respective bids are summarized below. There are 2 bids. You have them before you. The scope of work for this project includes the replacement of the existing generator with a new 30 kilowatt exterior pad mounted weatherproof sound attenuated generator for the East Street Sanitary Pumping Station. This project includes the complete removal of the existing generator, fuel tanks, fuel lines, exhaust venting, etc., along with the supply, installation, and commissioning of the new generator, including all mechanical, electrical, structural, and civil modifications. The estimated construction budget for this project was $236,900 excluding HST, and was included in the approved budget for 2026. And attached to my report is the GP2G tender report, which also supports the award of the tender to JWK Utilities. I'm happy to take questions.
Questions on the report? Looks like this one's gonna go. I need a motion to approve that. Moved by Deputy Mayor Savary, seconded by Councilor Roots. The council approves the award of tender PW-10-2026 East Street Pumping Station Generator Replacement to the lowest bidder being JWK Utilities and Site Services Limited in the amount of $188,682.73. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Nice to see a lot of our tenders coming in below budget, especially the road work projects as well.
Yep, everything's going really well this year. So we have, just to let council know on the boiler replacement, we're tendering for the installation of the boilers. The boilers were purchased from an Ontario-based company, medium-made boilers. So yeah, all our projects are moving forward and going well so far. So thank you.
Because there was a lot of concern with the turmoil going on in the world right now, with oil prices raising the cost of asphalt and other fuel for all the trucks that are doing all these projects for us. We haven't seen any of that coming forward, so it's good to see you doing well. Okay, thanks, Chris.
You're welcome.
Thanks. Next, as Don and Colin make their way to the podium, we have the monthly activity report for April for legislative services.
Thank you, Mercedes. So for the month of April, our law enforcement company received 22 calls for service for animal-related calls. These calls did not include any calls to the garrison, but I did receive one today. So just letting you know that we are still providing the service, yes. We only had 6 parking tickets issued, and we had 4 noise complaints, 7 clean yard related complaints for service, and we have issued 1 transient trailer license to Bell Canada to operate door-to-door between May 18th to June 14th. And we had 3 false alarms.
And under human resources for the month of April, we had a busy month. To echo what Colin Coyle said earlier this evening, Jody and Colin's department were quite busy. Conducted interviews on April for canteen operator, facility operator assistant, beach attendants, and also for Christine's department, the market business associate. We're all successfully brought on board. Under Commissioner Bolt, we had 17 requests for the month of April. Under our community flag program, for the first 2 weeks of April, the Autism Ontario flag was flown, and nothing else for that in the month. Under community requests, or sorry, council requests, I should say, we had 5 requests for certificates of recognition from the Office of the Mayor. And under the Office of the CAO, I just wanted to let council know that we have heard back from Watson and Associates today, as a matter of fact, late this afternoon, and happy to report that we should be coming before council with our updated water and wastewater study in July. So took a little longer than we wanted, but we did, because we were going to bring it back based on 2024 stats. Since we started late with our finance department, we came on board and we decided to do this rate for the end of 2025. So that's why it's taken a bit longer. So just wanted to let council know that. And that's, oh, and then of course it's election month. So Dawn and myself, Kate and Natasha, the 4 of us will be heavily involved with the election, and we were down in Kingston for training April the 16th and 17th. And as we all know, election campaign season is upon us, and we are receiving nominations as of May the 1st. So we haven't already done so, and for anybody out there watching, we're here and we're open for business. Thank you. but make an appointment.
I hope everybody got that. No drop-ins with your nomination. Questions on the report? It's good to see that, that Melanie reported our clean yard bylaw. Her policy is now in place because it seems like we're getting an awful lot of reports coming in terms of property standards and clean yard bylaws. So it's glad that, or good that we have something with a little bit of teeth now that we can help keep our community clean. Any further questions or comments? Then I need a motion. Moved by Councillor Driscoll, seconded by Councillor Coutu, that the Legislative Services Monthly Activity Report be accepted as information. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Nothing to general matters. There's no closed meeting. I need a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Driscoll, seconded by Councillor Donovan, that the meeting be adjourned at the call of the mayor. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.